Welcome to Personal Mastery Training. I'm your host, Alvin Brown, former world-class athlete turned entrepreneur and consultant. Join us as we learn from guests who have conquered their inner battles and share their journeys to success. Get ready for inspirational masterclasses and thought-provoking strategy sessions to fuel your path to personal mastery. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, this is Alvin Brown, your host of Personal Mastery Training. Today, I'm handing the mic over to some incredible minds from our extended family at Personal Mastery Alliance. Dr. Charlie Cartwright, Raymond Tonier, and Brandon Anderson. These guys bring a wealth of wisdom, experience, and powerful insights on flipping the script in your life. They'll dive deep into how past experiences can be transformed into learning tools, why resilience is non-negotiable, and how to turn obstacles into opportunities. So sit back, take notes, and get ready to change your mindset. Without further ado, here's today's episode, Flip the Script, Change Your Life.
Hello once again and welcome to the Personal Mastery Alliance. It's Dr. Charlie and Ray here today.
What's up, guys?
Providing the meal, as the great Alvin Brown would say. We've got some wisdoms to share, and today's topic is really one that I think affects, it's 9 out of 10 people, right? I think at least 9 out of 10 people will be able to identify what we're going to be talking about today. And again, it's a painful past. It's tough adversity. It's tough experiences. It's things that you've went through in your life that were really, really difficult. Matter of fact, it could have been unfair, right? Mistreated, overlooked, abused. You might even had a crime committed against you, okay? And so what I've recognized, I had a very traumatic childhood, okay? Traumatic, at the hands of my dad, right? And that's a person that's supposed to be your protector, supposed to be at least one of your top two fans. And it didn't turn out to be that. And as a child, it's very confusing when, someone's abusing you, you don't really understand why. And then you have such a limited scope of the world. You're so inexperienced that then you internalize it and you say, what? Must be something wrong with me. I must be a really bad kid, right? And the situation is this. If we don't overcome our past, if we don't harvest the good from our past, if we run from our past, then our past will haunt us for the rest of our life. It'll chase us into the grave. However, if we overcome our past, it becomes an asset. It starts paying dividends for us. And as a matter of fact, it pays dividends in ways that no other experience can pay. And so I'm teeing it up that way. And with that, I'll flip it to you, Ray.
Yeah, I love it. And almost everyone in some shape or form is affected by this or has been affected by this at some point in their life. Okay. In the UFC right now, we always talk about the Dagestanis, right? The Dagestanis, because they have this specific style where they're very disciplined, where they're 100% about it. All they do is train, and they have when they grab you, they have a different type of strength. Okay. And I remember watching this video with Islam Makhachev, one of the champions, and Daniel Cormier, a former Olympian with the U.S. Wrestling team and a former double champion in the UFC. And Daniel's very involved, coaching kids and his own kids. And I remember Islam Makhachev just telling Daniel, hey, your kids, they have to be strong. It's not even a question in this life. It's important just to build strength, not just physically, but mentally. And you know what? Just send them to Dagestan for 2 years and forget. Okay, and forget. We'll take care of them. Okay. So let's talk about this concept of just being strong. And there's a great wisdom I took away from Bob Marley I want to share with you guys. It says here, you never know how strong you are until being strong is your only option. Okay. Sometimes, as we all know it, life isn't fair. We're not dealt with the best cards, and that's not fair. As simple as that. But when that is your only option, you also discover new things about yourself. You also build new things. And what happens unknowingly is that you become stronger. Okay. You become strong. And being strong, I believe, is so important in this world. Being strong in your belief in yourself, being strong in your confidence, being strong in just taking action and trying new things and allowing yourself to fail and fall and get back up and build perseverance. All these things translate. Okay, all these things translate. And the great thing about this is that it doesn't take any talent. It really doesn't. So all of us have this ability to build strength. And I believe that strong people access something that's very important, and that's freedom. Okay. Freedom to be yourself, freedom to pursue what you want to pursue, freedom to forgive, not for others, but for yourself. Okay, for yourself, and the freedom to choose courage. That's another thing that I'll dive into it when it comes to this conversation, because when the cards are not dealt, in your favor, and you're in a bad situation, and you have to develop, that strength. It's going to take a lot of courage because it's not easy. Everything tells you that you may not be good enough. Everything is trying to bring you down, but ultimately you have this thing inside of you that you can make this choice, to pursue. And the more you do it, the more you build that strength. Okay, that strength that will come out in so many other phases. And again, I believe every time we have these conversations, Charlie, or with Alvin and with Brendan, it's funny because it's stuff that we were thinking about during the week. I wrote something down on my phone right now. I want to share with you guys as I finish and pass the mic back. It says that the secret to happiness is strength, and strength brings freedom. The secret to freedom is courage. In life, you must take action if you want to experience freedom. The best way to take action is to build strength. Okay, it's to build strength. So, falls right into this conversation. Great topic that we can all take away from. And with this, I'll pass the mic.
Really appreciate those thoughts, Ray, and building strength, being strong. When I think about it from a traditional sense, you think about physically building physical strength. You got to lift things, right?
Yeah.
You got to lift heavy things. You got to lift things repetitively. You got to carry things. You think about that from an emotional standpoint. Same thing. You got to lift things. You got to carry things to gain strength. There's no other way. You're not going to gain strength by sitting on the sidelines. Okay, you've got to be an active participant in this. And and it's so difficult. Again, not saying it's easy at all. That's why we're having this conversation. It is very difficult. Going through adversity is very difficult. However, adversity has lessons to teach you that success doesn't.
Mm.
Adversity has lessons to teach you that happiness cannot. Okay? And so if you're going through it, and we all do, right? Or currently are, since we're in there, in the bear cage, right? Why not gain all the lessons? Why not look for how this can help you now and in the future? How it can literally set you up for success, set you up for happiness, make you a stronger, more resilient human being. And from going from, hey, it's unfair that I've been dealt these cards, then 5 years, 10 years, maybe 30 years down the road, now you have an unfair advantage because you have so much strength versus someone that hasn't gone through those things, right? There's no comparison, there's no substitute. So looking at it that way, otherwise, if we don't gain strength from our adversity, if we don't gain wisdom from our adversity, if we don't gain resilience from our adversity, then it's just suffering. So we're in there, and while we're in there, hey, let's leverage that. Let's look for ways to use it to our advantage. And it's so interesting that the opportunities that I've had, some of the opportunities that I've had in my life, were as a result of having another opportunity taken away, maybe unfairly. But if this one wasn't taken away, then I wouldn't have been available and present to take advantage of this opportunity over here. And this opportunity over here was a much greater opportunity than what I left, what I was taken away from. And it's so true. If you look back over and over again, you'll see how your adversity has helped you. And so it's always this, it's either a stumbling block or a stepping stone
Yes,
based on how we use it. It's a stumbling block or a stepping stone. With that, I'll pass the mic.
that's so true. And stumbling block or a stepping stone, and that comes from perspective. And I understand it's difficult to have perspective when you're suffering, right? That's really the hard part in the end about this game. Okay. But one thing I know for sure, and I think it would be great for all of us to do the exercise as we look into our lives. Okay. The most adversity I've had in my life and that I've overcome, okay, has given me the longest lasting benefits. The longest lasting benefits. The good moments were great, but they were temporal, temporal. Really, what makes life so beautiful now is because there was some struggle, there was some growth, there was some different things that was mixed in with the great moments. Okay. And I'll give you guys a good example, for instance. Life is a marathon, as we know. It's not a sprint, right? Us as human beings and our brain, because it's so effective. Okay, it's so effective. It's always trying to find ways to bring us to comfort, to bring us to safety. Is that when we're in a specific moment of adversity and of difficulty, it tends to seem so much longer, so much longer than it really is. It doesn't make it easier, right? But we forget, okay, we forget in that moment that, okay, if we have the right perspective and we look at it from the long haul, okay, as a marathon, hey, no matter what my situation is, if I'm here and I believe I will be here, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but if I do everything in my power to figure it out, to find a ray of hope, life has shown us so many times again that they will introduce rays of hope. Life will introduce opportunities. It's not a matter of just being lucky, it's a matter of seeing them, of being prepared for them. And that's where adversity comes in, is that adversity is that great teacher and preparator, to actually take advantage of these opportunities and raise of hope when they're there, but we have to see them. Okay. Now, how do we do that? There's many ways. For instance, we talked about courage, right? We talked about initiating something, taking action. That's definitely an important part. But at the same time, we live in a society where we're surrounded, and I believe Good example. We had a huge snowstorm recently here in Canada. We shoveled for like 2, 3 days straight. You know, in the backyard, we have about, and I'm serious, huh? We have about like 9 feet of snow. You know, 9 feet of snow in the backyard. So my kids are super happy. We're playing in there. That's fun. But okay, I saw so many people that barely talk to each other, you know, when there isn't snow, just helping on each other every single day. You know, helping on each other, asking for neighbors, seeing if they're okay. There are so many more good people than there are bad people in this world. And sometimes just finding the strength. Okay, that's the question is, what does strength mean? As Charlie said, it doesn't mean I'm super strong. I do it all by myself. I do everything by myself. Sometimes it's being able to ask for help when you truly need the help. Okay. Sometimes it's learning to get out of your own way. Okay. That's also strength because maybe at that particular moment of your life, you weren't given the tools, you know, to figure it out yourself. What we can do is try to take the first step. Okay, try to first take the first step. Find that real life of like raise your hand. Find the right people that can pour into you. If you don't have the right people, find the books that can pour into you. If you don't have the book, listen to these messages that can pour into you. You see, we're in a place now in history where there's so much goodness and information that is available to us. Okay. Sometimes, as I said, it's your network and it's finding people of significance, as you said earlier, Charlie, that can pour into you to help you put the pieces together. Okay, so what I'm really trying to say is that you don't have to do it all alone. Sometimes it feels like you're all alone, but I believe you're never completely all alone. Okay. And as you walk on this journey, as you build up pieces once by one, you become a total new creation over time. And you have to believe that. And you have to give yourself the time and the grace to see it through. And I know that's something that Brandon talks about often. It's just seeing it through. Okay. Work until the work is done. I don't know when it's done. Let me try just work a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And next thing you know, you turn around and you're completely somewhere else. And you're completely somewhere new. Okay. So ask yourself what strength looks like for you. Okay. Maybe it's something different than for somebody else, but ask yourself also who is in my corner? What is positive? What can pour into me? The human spirit is limitless, as we know. You know, you can create yourself nonstop, just like Legos. You know, you can add new parts. Are you totally focused on that, whether there's adversity or not? Because as we know, even when things go really, really well, it's just a matter of time before there's another challenge. That's what life is. So expect it. Expect it, learn to make it your friend, and let me weight my words. Certain things no one should have to go through. You know, I'm not bringing that down or undermining that at all. Certain things no one should have to go through. But at some point, the beautiful part is that we all are responsible for our lives at some point. So no matter what someone else does to you, you are responsible for your life. You have that power. Take that one step, look for help, build yourself, build confidence, keep moving forward. Great things will happen, in my opinion. And it's been shown to us over and over and over again. You know, there are great examples of that all around. And with that, I'll pass it
Awesome. Awesome share.
on.
You know, as you were talking about asking for help is strength. And I've got a friend, he's a part owner of a construction company, engineer, very successful business person. And, I've known him for a while now and just observed him in meetings and different things. And obviously a smart person, resilient, all those things. But, I think his superpower is really asking for help, asking questions. So he can be in a meeting and there can be 20 people in the meeting and they're discussing some type of, business topic or whatnot. And he won't let the meeting proceed or go on to the next topic until he understands. Hey, I don't get it. I don't understand. Can you explain that again? I don't understand. And so a lot of people in that similar situation would never want to admit to their peers that they don't understand, would never want to admit to strangers that they don't understand, and would never ask for further explanation. So then they remain in ignorance, right? Where this gentleman, I'm like, he just asks questions. I don't understand. Well, how do you do that? Well, then what's the next step? Well, then how does that tie into here? I mean, he understands things completely because he asks questions. He asks for help. He asks other people that are in the know, well, how do you do that? Well, how did you get there? Well, how did you arrive at that? Well, how does that relate to this? And so just asking questions is a superpower. And specifically asking questions of people who already know, who are in a position to help you, right? And that is strength, asking for help. So it's a really important factor. And regardless of what people would sometimes portray or represent that they're self-made, there's no self-made person, right? Every person on this planet that's been successful has had some help, right? From another person, or in most cases, a lot of people, in order to be able to achieve and the heights they have. So, like you said, Ray, there are more good people than bad people, right, out there. And the good people will help you if you ask them, right? Because otherwise, they might not know you need help. And so you have to be willing to ask and then also um, kind of take away the obstacles so that people can help you. I'll give an example. Wintertime is a time where we see, car batteries go bad. And you don't know you have a bad battery until the temperatures sometimes getting extreme, and then all of a sudden you're stranded. And so one of the ways you can help people help you is keep your own jumper cables in your car, in your trunk. So another person will give you a jump if you have cables. If you don't have cables, well, I'm sorry, I don't have cables. I would have gave you a jump. So there's things we can do to make it easier for people to help us. And so like having your own jumper cables in your car is a way to open you up to a lot of help in the event that your battery would suddenly go. They get you started and get you down the road where you can get yourself fixed up, get home, or get a new battery, or both, right? And so that with that, I'll pass the mic. Hey, Brandon, welcome. Man,
What is
it's
going what
Hey,
is going on, brothers?
good to see you, man.
what's
Good to see you. Man, I'm already intrigued by the conversation.
Yeah,
Imagine
so
that.
so
Imagine
to,
that.
so
Man.
today what we picked was man, I think 90+% of the people on the planet can identify with today's topic. And it's dealing with the painful past,
Hmm.
right? And dealing with adversity, things that happened to you that were tough, that were unfair, right? Could have been abuse, could be being overlooked, somebody could have committed a crime against you. However, if we look within that adversity, there's opportunity to help us. That same adversity that almost broke us, right? Whether it's childhood, young adult, or even adulthood, that same adversity created in you attributes that now are leading to your success, that are now paying dividends, right? However, if you don't harvest the good out of that adversity, it's just suffering, right? It's just
Right.
suffering. So we've got to harvest the good. And so Ray's point is, hey, these things happen. It may have been unfair, right? It may not have been right. However, when you grow from that and learn from that and take advantage of that, down the road, it gives you an unfair advantage because you've got this uncommon strength. You've got this uncommon ability that other people just don't have because they haven't walked in your shoes. They haven't been through that adversity that gave you that strength. And physically, the only way to get strong is to lift strong, heavy things, right? Lift them
Yes.
up, do it repetitively. But it's the same thing for our mental strength, our emotional strength. We got to lift heavy things and we got to carry them. And that's how we gain strength. Okay. And so anyway, that brings you up to speed, brother.
Man, you jumping in the Ray? Or you want me to say something?
You got it. You got
Oh,
it. Go ahead.
is it? You ever find yourself? I'm sure you have in a situation where like deja vu, like just yesterday. It's crazy what you're saying, Charlie. And this is wild. So I scrolled across Cat Williams. Everybody knows Cat Williams. He's a little on the raw side of things,
Yeah.
almost like Eddie Murphy Raw way back in the day. But
Yep.
Cat is something else. But I stumbled across a video reel, doom scrolling, and he was talking about this very thing, talking about how if you list all the things you've been through in your life, right? And you made it past all that junk, right? To be in the position where you can still stand, still do some good, still make stuff happen, that we all have that in common. Everybody has that in common with and he goes on to say about every superhero, every autobiography, everything that happened to you that should have broke you that did not break you. Now you're able to still be here and talk about it. We all have some commonality, right? Whether it's a trial in life or, I mean, we've all broke down before, right? And it always happens at the most inconvenient moment. How do we react to that? You know? And then if you can use those experiences to share with others how you overcame that struggle, right? And help build them up. We talked about this the other day, building up, and being leaders. I'll take listening to what you were saying a moment ago, talking about asking for help. Well, anybody can ask for help, whether we do or not, and the challenges with that, the pride issues and whatnot. That's a whole nother story and lane we can drive down. But if I was to ask you for help, Ray, or Dr. Charlie for help, but you didn't have the mindset of being willing to help, me asking for help doesn't do anything for me. If anything, it might discourage me to ever ask for help again, especially if you're negative. So I think, you know, all the people, those 95% of everybody in the world that you were talking about, we also need to have a majority of us need to have the mindset of I'm willing to help somebody as well, right? I'm willing to share. I'm willing. It takes a willingness and a choice to put those jumper cables in my truck so that I can help somebody, right? We need more of that just as much. We need an equal amount of that as we need an equal amount of individuals that are willing to ask and feel comfortable. If the rest of us that are willing to help make it known we're willing to help, it is what comes to mind. It comes to mind for me. And I give all kinds of examples. The amount of work I do in the mental health space, in the construction industry, in society, it's bleeding over into other industries, just the world, if you will, outside of just general construction. But we are trying to build a culture in that industry that we care and we're willing to help you if you're willing to ask. We don't know what we don't know. We sure there's signs and symptoms. Just like if somebody's on the side of the road with their hood up, they broke down, right? You take a guy or a gal, somebody on the job site that's got their face in their hands, they're struggling, they got that look of despair on their face, or maybe they've made some comments. It's just like having the hood up, right? Something wrong, you know. We need to be willing to say, "Hey, are you okay? Hey, can I help you? What's going on? You need a jump?" Right? And be available to them, as well as those individuals have to be in that situation, or that let me rephrase that individuals need to be in an environment where they feel like they can ask for it, regardless of what it is. Maybe it's just help on how to do something. in everyday life. It could be so many different things. So I'll pause there and pass the mic. Morning, brothers.
Good morning, welcome.
Apologies for my tardiness.
Good morning, Brandon. There's so much stuff that we talked about for sure. I'll start off with some of what you said, Brandon, and then I'll go back to you, Charlie. You finished off, Brennan, by saying when there's an environment where people are comfortable, are comfortable to be that person that takes the lead, to be that person that asks the question. That's so powerful, I believe, because I remember often talking about being the thermostat or exactly,
Thermometer.
right?
Yeah, you're the
Thermometer.
thermostat or the thermometer.
Exactly. So, what if we are intentional every single day in creating that environment? Because this is so true. This is so true. As I was saying, we had a huge snowstorm here, okay, this past week, one of the biggest in the past 20 years. And, my father-in-law put traction aids in my car last year. Okay. I just kept them in my trunk. So they were there in my trunk. They were there all along to help me, to make sure I help me or my wife if the event happens that we get stuck. But because I had them, and now I have this SUV that goes pretty well in the snow, hey, the second I get out of my house and I'm trying to get in my car, but I see neighbors struggling, I open up that trunk, I take out these traction aid, I walk towards them, and I help them. To the point now that neighbors are like, okay, you're the guy with the traction aids. That just helps out everyone. But someone did this for me. Okay, it was intentional to think about me, making sure I'm good. And now I'm trying to be intentional in helping others. So it's creating this environment. And really, what it means is that the world needs more kindness. Okay, needs more intentional kindness. We can never have enough of it. I think we all have enough problems. Okay, all of us have enough problems. That's one thing. What if, on the other hand, we had kindness? We had people willing and ready just to simply ask the question. You don't have to go out of your way. You can simply be like, hey, how can I support you? Or if you see something and you have the answer, try to bring it forward. So I think that's awesome. That's definitely something that I wrote down, creating the environment wherever you are. That's so important. Second thing, I want to go back to what you were talking, Charlie, about how asking questions is a superpower. Um, I spoke to a very wise man in the past 2 weeks. Okay, very wise man, and he gave me an advice, just business wise. He said, always seek the full truth. Never accept half truths. Never accept half truths because that's lazy. And in the work environments and business environment, leaders tend to do that a lot. Let's say there's a problem and you ask some questions to your leaders and they give you answers that are really on the surface, but they don't fix anything. They're really just simple surface answers, and oftentimes leaders accept that answer. Okay, well, that's the truth. It's not gonna fix anything. It's gonna, keep you talking about it, making you feel like you did your job and you kind of go on with your day. But when you look to really, really solve problems, okay, you get to a place where you don't accept half truths anymore. And that brings you to asking more deeper questions and not leaving the meeting, making the meeting very productive because I'm not leaving that meeting until I have the true source of this problem, so we can do something really actionable to change it quickly, to put a plan in place. So again, what's the intention behind it, right? And the thing with adversity, we accept a lot of half truths about it sometimes. We're like, oh, this hurts. Oh, this sucks. And we gotta leave it at that. Not seeing the real truth behind it. Oh man, this is actually for me. This is building me up. I've been running away from this issue for years, and now I have no other choice but to face it. And it's only going to be good for me if I face it. That's the truth. That's the thing I've been running away from, accepting half truths all the time, not diving deeper into this conversation. This is the time where, man, I truly need therapy because I can't figure this out on my own. This is the limit as to how far I can go. Okay, let me dive deeper. So I think that's so important also is that what kind of truth are we really seeking about any situation? Are we accepting the half truth or are we diving in 100% to find the truth, the absolute truth in it? When we look at adversity that way, that's when it becomes a true teacher. I believe that's when we put ego aside and we can truly, truly move forward. There's really no other way. Okay, I've had. I'm happy to have a great marriage at this point. I had moments in my marriage where it was very difficult, where maybe we were at the brink, we were at the edge, but we had to really dive in, okay, and talk about the things we were avoiding to talk about. And that's the only way that we became so much stronger and we're allowed to move forward. And these are the things that last, that are built to last. So I started off the conversation about like in life we need to be strong, right? We need to be strong one way or another. As we build strength, we're equipped to last. All these things that we talked about, I believe, is building us to last. Okay, to go all the way, the next mile, and we all have that ability. So with this, I'll pass the mic.
Excellent, excellent thoughts, brothers. Looking at this, you both said some things just so so critical to overcoming these challenges that we've all faced at times. And you mentioned early, Brandon, that if you talk to someone that's not willing to help, right, that would be discouraging. And so we've got to have a willingness, as a society to help people. And I think one of the things, using Ray's example with the traction aids, like you were given those, and then you were more than happy to help other people, share what you've been given, right? And I really find that with people that have overcome challenges, overcome adversity, if someone's going through a similar adversity and that person comes to them, they're more than happy to share how they overcame it or the things they did that helped because they know exactly how it feels. They know exactly how it felt. So, regardless of what you're struggling with, regardless of what's happened in your past, there's someone that's went through the same thing. And there's a community of people, as a matter of fact, that have went through that same thing, and they're willing to help you. But you got to find that community. And now we're so connected, with the internet and things like that. You can find those communities of people that have had a challenge. You could have an autistic child, you could have, special needs child, you could have some type of physical ailment, right? Some type of skin condition, or maybe you're struggling with anxiety, and there'll be people that have overcome these things and say, hey, here's what I did. Here's who I went to get help. Here's my protocol, right? Share it with you because they totally understand because they've literally walked in your shoes. So I think that's something really to keep in mind at all times, that you can find someone that's already overcome the challenge that you have instead of continuing to struggle without answers. So I think that's a really big thing. And then I think also it helps just from a hope and encouragement standpoint to find examples, of people that have overcome things, very difficult things, to go on to lead very productive lives. And you can kind of look at that and say, you know what, they did it, I can do it too. Because I think sometimes it's easy to kind of internalize and think I'm the only one that's struggling. I'm the only one that has been through this, right? And I remember feeling that way with my childhood and some different things. And a friend told me about this group called Al-Anon, and it's there's Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And I think most people are familiar with that group, but then there's an Al-Anon group. So Al-Anon is people that have lived in a household where the alcoholism was present. Maybe it was um, a parent or a spouse or even a sibling, and it really impacts you, even though you don't drink. It really impacts you. So Al-Anon is a place that helps people that have grown up or lived in those circumstances, gives them tools, and it's a support group and really helps you overcome that. So I remember just totally being afraid to go to this meeting, but I was struggling so much and I was like, man, I just gotta go. So I got there early, because I wanted to sit in the back, right? And so I'm gonna go there early and I'm gonna sit in the back. And I get to this room and no, chairs are in a circle. There's no back in the room. All right. So then I was sitting there by myself, and then people start coming in. And I just remember sweating, like I could feel the sweat on my forehead coming down. And the meeting starts, and then people start sharing their stories. And I heard my story, and I heard it again, and I heard it again, and I heard it again, and I heard it again. And I was like, wow, I've been for years believed that I had this unique challenge no one else could understand, no one else could identify with, no one else could help me with. And I heard my story half a dozen times the first meeting. And then I understood there are millions of people just like me, however, now connected into a community where I can get help. And it did. It changed my life and really helped me put that anger down because I was so angry about it, right? And had so much animosity. And I was able to put that down. And then that opens you up, because here's the thing, when you're carrying that, anger, animosity, that's heavy and takes both hands. And so when you're carrying that, it's hard to pick up some kindness, right? It's hard to pick up some help, right? It's hard to pick up some resilience, right? It's hard to pick up some happiness if your hands are full of anger and animosity. You got to free yourself up, right, to pick some things up that are actually going to help you. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
Ooh. Oh, I was writing down some notes and research, trying to look up some stuff at the same time. And the, Charlie, you were just talking about what you've been through, and you made it, kind of around the lines of, this was supposed to happen to me, right? And and then taking those experiences, one, accepting them, not that they were right or wrong, but just accepting the fact that I went through that. I made it through it, right? I'm not still there. I had someone make a comment once from the pulpit, if you will, about people going through the storm and how people were calling, "Man, I'm going through this. You're not going to believe what I'm going through." And he's like, "That's great." And we're like, "What? What do you mean that's great?" And they're like, "Well, you didn't tell me you were stuck. If you'd have called and said, 'Hey, I'm stuck,' different conversation, right? You're going through it. You will get through it." And if we can use those experiences and share that and help individuals like you were talking about, Al-Anon, and a great organization, great groups. It's probably completely underrated, and underutilized in many cases. And there's others that are similar to it for different situations. But um, I'm going to go down I'm going to go down the the rabbit hole of gratitude in that moment as well, right? Of what you've experienced, good, bad, and ugly. And there's power in gratitude, right? We've talked about this before. Charlie, you've seen my presentation on the power of gratitude, and sharing the things that I've been through, and some snapshot, or just kind of skimming the surface level of it, of my experiences in life from childhood through adulthood, and struggles and whatnot. But rather than looking at that as like, oh man, poor me, And there was a lot of that. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I've gotten to a place through asking for help, and then after that, being willing to help others, where I'm grateful for those experiences. I'm grateful I went through that storm, right? I'm grateful that car broke down, right? I I have met, like Ray, you were talking about, you're the guy with the traction aids, right? Hey, you're that guy, that you, I've met some incredible individuals helping them, pulling over, seeing if they needed a hand with their vehicle, picking somebody up that was walking and needed a ride, a hitchhiker, or being in a situation where I've had to ask a stranger for help, and come to find out, you end up being friends with somebody, right? You offer to pay for something, and and then you see that person on a regular basis, somebody you just happen to like or draw to each other, and then they turn into a friend, right? And it grows your community, and there's so much joy to be found in helping others, right? I think of the old famous statement of it's better to give than to receive, whether you're assisting someone, um, or helping them with their car. Back to that analogy, whatever the case may be. But with that, I'll pass the mic. It's Man, there's so much here.
Yeah, there's so much here. There's so much here, and even like we all have different paths. We all have our own stories, but as we come together, as we live together, we find how closely we're interconnected, right? One of the a true inspiration for me, and I mean it, right? And you will probably say the same thing the other way around. But true inspiration for me is one of my former clients and my brother-in-law who are alcoholics, who are alcoholics. And through our conversations, through me challenging them over the years because I care about them, I saw their transformation, but they've gotten to a place where they inspire me. And I don't think they realize how much they inspire me because give you a quick example. Um, when we're all together in a family gathering, my brother-in-law lives in China, okay? But whenever he's back here, and I look around and everyone has a drink in their hands, okay? But he's sitting in the middle of everyone, and then I realize I'm like, he's an alcoholic. This must be like so difficult for him. Everyone around him is drinking. He never touched a sip of alcohol for the past 15 years because he's gotten to a place where it was about his family. But my wife, who's his younger sister, about 6, 7 years younger, she was at those meetings that you were at, Charlie, with the family. She was affected some way, somehow. So me, I have so much respect for people that overcome something that's so difficult that will be part of their life forever. But every single day they make that choice. You know, they make that choice. So I think that's so powerful. And one way or another, it impacts everyone else. It does impact my family. It allows him and my wife, his sister, to have a great relationship. With my kids, to have a great relationship. So I'm really inspired by the choices he's made. Okay. Um, One of the things I wanted to talk about too, as I think about this, is we all have scars. All of us have scars. Uh, Man, the more we talk about this, I'm like, man, we should wear our scars with pride. Okay, we should wear our scars with pride because someone with scars is someone who has lived, is someone who has contributed and has things to contribute. Contributed and still has things to contribute for sure. Someone who's lost and overcome, someone who ultimately is trying to make the world a better place every single day. When I look at a baby, for instance, a baby is beautiful, its skin is perfect, they have no scars, but a baby is completely vulnerable. We can't be grown people going about our lives with zero scars. We can't contribute that way. We're completely vulnerable. So that's really the message in here. And whoever's listening, man, if you do have scars, wear them with pride. Okay, wear them with pride. They're part of your story. They're part of what you're continually moving and striving to become. And that's something that's very honorable and commendable. Because last time I checked, none of us is made to be perfect. Okay, so maybe that's part of the story. Also, is learning from these scars as we get them. And teaching others on their journeys also. So I'll pass the mic with that. Let's wear our scars with pride.
Wow, this is such a great conversation, and just lots of wisdom, lots of golden nuggets within it. And there's so many directions. So I think I love what you both had to say there, and that segment. Wearing your scars with pride is something too. I think that's very true. When we look back and see the things that we've overcome, we need to feel good about that. We need to take full credit for the things we've overcome. Because here's the thing, as human beings, we always take full credit for our mistakes, most people, right? We take full credit for our mistakes. We take full credit for the times we fail. We take full credit for when we broke down, when this broke us. We take full credit for those things. However, it is so important to take full credit when we take a step in the right direction, when we ask for help, when we look back and say, wow, um, this happened yesterday, and 5 years ago, I would have responded completely differently, completely in a negative way. But the same scenario 5 years later, because I've learned, because I've grown through adversity, I was able to handle that in a very efficient way, and in a way that no one was hurt, no one was injured, including myself. And now I'm moving on to the next challenge. And I think that is something that's really important, that we do take credit for the things we've overcome, because the reality is every single person listening to this has overcome 100% of your challenges up to today, right? You've overcome all of it. You've survived it, okay? And so now take credit for that, and then take advantage of that. And I remember listening to Michael Phelps talk about training, and how, as this, he wanted to be an Olympic champion, and he looked at training as making a deposit in the bank, making a deposit in the bank. And there are days where he didn't want to train, didn't feel like. He said, I'm going to make a deposit though. I'm going to make a deposit. He said, so now you have the event, the Olympics are here. Well, now he said, I can withdraw all that money because I deposited, right? And so
Cash in.
I love it, cash in. So we can look at diversity and going through adversity the same way, where when we ask for help, right? When we, meet a challenge head on, when we take the time to learn the lessons that were there available, that's putting money in our emotional bank account. Now, when a big challenge comes, hey, it's going to cost us this. Well, we already got all this money. Oh, I'll pay for that with my previous challenges, right? I got that covered easily, right? No problem. I still got resilience left, because I've been making those deposits. And so we've got to make those deposits every day, even when we don't feel like it. And and here's the other thing about life, is it keeps coming, right? There's no, hey, you hit 50 years old and your challenges are over and you've got all the lessons and wisdom. No, there's different challenges, there's more challenges, but if you're learning and growing along the way, you're better able to overcome those challenges and defeat them very quickly, right? And one other point I wanted to make, if you study buffalo, right, they're an interesting animal in that when storms come, and obviously they have great instincts and things like that, but when storms come, buffaloes turn into the storm.
Yes.
They drive into the storm because they know if the storm's coming at them and they're going into it, they're going to come out of it quicker versus just standing there and letting the storm happen to them or running away from the storm and now they're in the storm for a longer duration. No, I'm coming at you. I'm stepping into it. And so with our challenges, hey, let's step into them, right? Let's step into them. Let's address them. And we're going to, just like the buffalo, we're going to get through those storms more quickly.
Mm.
And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Oh, one of my favorite animals for so many different reasons. And so true. I want to say, Charlie, that they're one of the few, if only, mammals that do that, I believe. The scars, but just incredible animals. The scars is interesting. So while you were talking about scars, I just, good old Google, right? Significance of scars. And it breaks it down like 4 different categories. It talks about it's a reminder of injuries, symbols of strength, or a representation of a journey. And under the symbols of strength, scars can be symbols of growth, trials, and triumphs. Right. So back to, wearing them proudly. And I think there's a balance between boasting and being proud, and being proud and proud from the standpoint of I overcame this, right? I put in this work. The journey scars represent that sacrifice and long journey someone's had, been, experienced, or a story of victory. Some cultures it's a mark of manhood or rite of passage, depending on what the situation is. And then there's also the social and psychological effect where, you know, people with visible scars that they can face additional challenges, from discrimination on, to low self-esteem. But man, I've got I've got a friend. His name's Charlie as well. We call him Little Charlie because he is a very small person, and he's got to be in his 70s by now. And when I was young, we're talking fifth grade, sixth grade, he was in a really bad motorcycle accident and lost his left leg, just below the knee, just enough to where he had a little bit of a nub, about like this. And as a child, you don't know any better. The innocence of children, we can learn some stuff from that, but it's a whole other conversation. But rather than just getting down, I mean, he overcame that, and he has this physical scar of his experience, right? It could have practically ruined his life. That man hasn't stopped. He was always into horses and roping and trail riding, always into motorcycles. I think he rode for a while afterwards, but really hasn't rode since. For a short period of time, and then just never rode again. But still rides to this day, lives in South Central Missouri in Eminence, and has on a family farm, and he still trail rides constantly on a horse. Imagine being barely 5 foot tall and one leg, right? And you're going to get up on this massive animal and ride around, right? And he's been doing it his whole life. I see friends and people I know in wheelchairs, and there's a gal, her name is Jessica, I follow her on Instagram. Um, Incredible athlete, and was in a really bad car accident, was paralyzed, still has her legs, but obviously doesn't have the muscle mass. You can see that scar, right? It's a different scar. It's not your typical cut and damaged skin. But from about the abdomen down, waist down, she's lost mobility. But she doesn't stop. Some of the stuff I see her, she's a first form athlete, out of St. Louis. They sponsor her. She does all kinds of wild, crazy stuff that I really have no desire to do myself, let alone don't feel like I could. And this woman's in a wheelchair doing it. You know, it's inspiring. Our scars are experience, whether it's a physical scar or an experience, right? Because that can be a scar too. That memory can inspire others to do incredible things that maybe beforehand they never would have thought they were capable of doing. And that inspiration comes from somebody else's experience and being able to overcome that trial um, that they went through, right? But you have to have that willingness to share that scar or to help that individual, right? Put the jumper cables in there in your car, or the traction aids, or whatever. Maybe it's water. I traveled across Missouri during that was it early January, and that really bad storm that came through, and I came across multiple car accidents, and something told me to put a case of water in the truck, and I did. And I try to keep water in the truck, but I came across multiple accidents where people were in the ditch. They were safe. They were okay. They weren't going anywhere. And I asked them, "Hey, do you have water? Do you need some water? You're going to be here for a while," and was giving out water. Just being willing to help in that time, recognizing those opportunities when you can, right? And acting on that, being intentional, right? So with that, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Part two.
Man,
Part two, right?
yeah. Part two, man. Just these stories, man. All these stories, man. They struck a chord. Is that how to say it? Anyways, man. They're so inspirational. And it just shows how it's built into the human spirit of whenever we see someone, something, find a way, you know, find a way against all odds, man. Against all odds, it inspires us in a different type of way, right? Because that's who we are. This is the makeup of who we are. Okay. So yeah, the tribe has woken up, so we're probably gonna hear that. The tribe has woken up. But man, if there's a song, and I haven't listened to it in a while. I'll listen to it again soon. But it says, "I'm gonna see a victory." Okay, I'm gonna see a victory. Man, if we believe that, and through our scars, and I'll look at that Google definition. I think that's awesome also. Okay, through all of our scars, if we write our story of victory, when it's all said and done, okay, will our story be one of victory? Man, we've done our job. That's all that matters in the end. And we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to win at every stop. We have to find a way, see it through, keep going, and simply refuse to stay stuck. Maybe that's all there is to it. Huh? Like maybe you're losing right now, but are you just staying stuck? Are you looking to find a way? Always. I believe if we do that long enough, we will see victory. As simple as that. Because this is how we're made. This is the human spirit, and we've seen it over and over again. We talked about it. If you look at examples all around you, you see people who've done it, and those people aren't any different than you, okay, and than we are. So, man, before we even get to the end of our call, I have my word. It's a victory. Yeah, victory. When it's all said and done, that's all I want, man. Being in front of the Lord and saying, "Hey, my life was a story of victory in the end. Not because I've won at every stop, because I tried, because I always looked to find a way. Whatever it was. You know. So, man, this is awesome. This is awesome. I'll pass the mic.
I love it. I love it. Well, as we wrap up here, I've got a closing thought on this. There's a wisdom that says that, victims feel like their adversity was their destiny. Champions use their adversity as their origin story, right? The big difference between the two. Big difference between the two. So, yeah, this has been such a tremendous share today. So I appreciate your contributions, both of you fellas, and making the time today to do it. And so, Ray, you got your word. We've got your word. What was it again?
Victory. Victory. When it's all said and done, put it in our minds, guys. We will see a victory. Whatever it is, man, just put one step in front of the other. Look to find a way. Whatever it is. Maybe the way is by asking help with the right people. Maybe the way is by getting out of your own way. But just find a way. One step at a time.
About you, Brandon?
Yeah, you know what comes to mind? Well, I wrote down early on intentionality, but I added another word to it and changed up. So intentional action, right? So many and Ray, you spurred that a moment ago because so many of us just kind of, we go through life, right? Without that intention. We go through, we're going through the storm, we're going through that adversity, and we're just kind of going with the flow, right? And if we were to be more intentional, if we were to take actionable steps forward or in the right direction, like Charlie said about the buffalo, right? You're going to get through it sooner and probably come out on the other side better, right? The life's a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? And so many people want that instant right now. We want to get to the finish line right now rather than actually, being intentional, having the biggest impact that you can in the steps in the moment you're in. So intentional action is my two words.
Awesome. Well, for me, I'm gonna choose gratitude here. Piggyback off something you said earlier, Brandon, and that really look at your adversity and be grateful for the strength, the wisdom, the resilience that it's given you, and use that to your advantage. And when you can recognize it with gratitude, then it doesn't make it right what happened, but it makes it okay. Because if that's the sacrifice that I had to pay to become the person that I am today, it's worth the price.
Absolutely.
Love it. Love it.
Oh,
All
I
right.
100% believe that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, fellas, this has been awesome. I'm inspired. It's a great way to start the week and to start my day.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there's three things we need to leave the listeners with. First and foremost is peace, love,
Love
and lots of soul.
and soul.